The Radium Podcast, episode 76. We're back for more. It's January 2020. NAMM just happened. Kevin KDE Beats is here on the couch.
Bradley D is also here on the couch.
We on this couch.
Ziggy B.
We in this couch.
Ziggy B's chilling.
All right, today we're going to be talking about 6 ways to have your song competing with or sounding as good as anything on the radio. What's our biggest thing here, Kev? Like, what's number 6? Let's not start with the biggest thing. Let's save that for the last, so that you guys got to watch all the way to the end to get to the number 1 biggest thing to get your music up there. And I know you guys have been waiting for this because this is some important stuff. We're talking about music. We're talking about a product. We're talking about something that you can make money on for the rest of your life.
You said number 6?
No, did you? That's your job.
No, you say number 6.
He had one job. He says, no, I'm trying to get to 5. All right, so number 6, recording. I think recording is very important, but as technology has gotten better and better and better, especially if you're an artist and you're just, rapping or you're just singing or whatever, I think you can record yourself pretty well. Just watch some YouTube tutorials, right? Get a decent setup. You can get an Apollo Twin for, $800? You can get, sometimes they do like offers with the 1073 preamps or whatever, like modules of preamps. Sound incredible. Grab a, whatever microphone you can really afford, but I think like the ATH Audio-Technica, like the 40 series are really good for the price. If you got a little more to spend, I go with a 414. And if you got a little more than that, then you're starting to get into like the $2,000 to $5,000 range. Should be like a U87. A lot of people have TLM 103s that we're using here. These are really clean. You can get a really good clean recording, but I think the most important part, the important part about recording is the environment you're in, right? So if you can keep it really quiet. The other day, Kevin was in here working on an artist that we work with a lot. And he had recorded something, and he's like, yeah, Brad, I'm trying to get this dog bark out of this recording. Remember that?
Yep.
So this is really important. Keeping the noise outside, keep it outside, right? And anything you can do to keep the quietness and the reflections from splashing around. They have like those eyeballs, right?
Those things suck.
I don't know. I've never used them, but you can use something like that, like a filter or something to like kind of keep the microphone noise tighter.
All right, let's get in some practical tips for recording yourself, no matter what you're using. There's certain things you can do to make your recording. Yeah, of course,
Not a lot of people know that.
So the first thing, get your mic out of the corner of the room. That's like a huge one that a lot of people do.
Always.
That's where all the muddiness, the boxiness, all the bad shit builds up, and it makes your recording sound very, very
boxy, boomy.
One-dimensional when it needs to be 3. Yeah, so that goes to the next thing. What Brad just did is back up from the mic a little bit, because there's something called proximity effect, and that's like a huge problem in a lot of amateur recordings and stuff like that. Especially on lower end mics, they have really bad problems with proximity.
Yeah.
So
and sibilance,
proximity, those two things. The next thing I would say is do acoustics with whatever you have. A good example is maybe like if you're recording in your bedroom, flip your bed all the way up so it's like standing straight up.
I've done it so many times.
And what it does is like, hey, you got this huge wall of trapping, because that's what it's that mattress foam. It's got stuff on it and it's going to absorb.
Mattresses are really great at that.
And then use pillows, blankets. Don't you could go really ham with it with blankets, but just be practical. The most important part to really cover is behind you. The mic, most of these mics have pretty good off-axis rejection, so they're not picking up what's behind the mic, which is what a lot of these things offer, like all these reflection filters are blocking the back of the mic, when that's really not the hugest problem. It's really the stuff behind you, because it's a cardioid pickup pattern. It's picking up everything in front of the mic, which is your face, but then also it's a little bit wider than that, so it's picking up everything over your shoulders. And like I said, probably the best way to do this is flip the mattress up.
Yeah,
Brad has a lot of experience with that.
Yeah. Flipped a lot of mattresses in my time.
Next thing, really important, and this happens all the time in a lot of amateur recordings, is turn your preamps down, make sure you're not clipping. There's a lot of issues. Clipping will distort your signal and add a lot of noise and bad stuff in your recording. And yes, you can declip technically, but there's nothing
Artifacts.
There's nothing better than a clean recording, and that's kind of what I'm talking about right now, is getting a clean recording. So just make sure you're not hitting your audio interface too hard, especially the lower end interfaces. They sound really bad. Those mic pre's, when they clip, just sound super tinny and terrible. Yeah, and then I think maybe the last thing you want to throw any
No, I think that's
tips on recording?
I think that's plenty. You should take a breath. That brings us to number 5, which is mixing. And I think that recording, if you are in a environment where you're using like an Apollo and you're in a bedroom or a project studio, leave it up to the mix engineer to add color and vibe to your vocal. Like, I can't express how important this is. We get recordings all the time where artists are trying to do too much. Like, you're not an engineer, maybe, like maybe you just got to give that part up. Practice like just making sure your gain staging is good. You're not clipping on the capsule. You're not, proximity effect, all the stuff Kev said. Get a clean recording, right? And then give it to the mixing engineer. Because the worst thing is when people have like processed or compressed on the way in or tried to do stuff with the vocal, and then give it to us. It's like, we got to just go fix all those problems. We get a bunch of phase issues, a bunch of weird shit going on, and we have to go and fix it as mixing engineers. So mixing is super important if you're trying to compete with like radio records. You can't compete with radio records without a really good mix. And it's number 5 on the list because there are more important things than just mixing, but these things all work together. And I don't want to like say like, oh, number 1 is most important and number 6 is the least important. All of this stuff is important and it all matters. Like, the better you can get at recording, mixing, doing all these things, we'll get to 4, 3, 2, and 1. But the better you can get with all of these things, the better product you're going to have, no matter what. And the art can always be better. The ideas can always be better, whatever. But some of this is not subjective. Some of this is like, that sounds good, right? People are going to go, that's great. Love it. So mixing is a really important part of this.
Yeah, let's talk about why mixing is important. And it kind of just to summarize a podcast that we just dropped.
Yeah, episode 75. Go check
75.
that out.
So if you check out 75, you'll understand why mixing matters. But like, just to give the quick rundown on that is translation. You got to make sure your song can play on every medium, and then it sounds the same or has the same intention. Like, things like low end if you're mixing in a bad room, in your own headphones, stuff like that. There's problems that, hey, you made your song sound really good on your setup in your bedroom or on your headphones.
Yeah, sounds sick.
How does that sound in every other place?
Sounds great in your car.
When the A&R is playing that on, say in a studio, Capitol Records, Atlantic Records, Interscope, whatever. They're sitting in studios and they're listening to these things, and when they play that, that's got to sound just as good.
Yeah, it really does.
As every major artist dropping.
Yeah, we talked about this in episode 75, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, we go like 10 levels deep on it.
Yeah, there's so much to mixing that you're not thinking about, maybe like building partnerships with an engineer that can actually get you more placements, can get you connected with better producers, can help connect you to publishers, songwriters, singers, get you in the studio,
art people,
all sorts of stuff.
Videographers.
Yeah, and if you're dealing with a professional mix engineer, we do professional mixing here at Radium. If you are interested,
shameless plug.
There's a link in the description, because we're always trying to help people get better mixes and recordings and product all the way around, because that's what, you want to be part of the success story, right? Like, oh, that thing this guy's platinum now. Oh yeah, we helped him get there, I want to be a part of that. So
speaking of product, what's next, Brad?
Yeah, mixing is something that I can't really, it's really hard because it's its own art, but it's a huge part of the product, the final product. A mix engineer can be just as artistic as the songwriter, as the singer, as anything else to bring out those things that you're lacking, that you're like, I can't figure out why my song doesn't sound as good as that radio hit. More than likely, mixing is a huge percentage of that. Just saying. So don't skimp on mixing. You got a guy that's doing it for $50, $100. He's
you
not
pay for.
mixing your record.
Or sometimes you don't.
He's not mixing your record.
They say you get what you pay for.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. Sometimes you're getting, you should have them pay you. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. This is a hard one because I'm always tossed up with all this stuff because there's so much that goes into making a great record, right? But as we look at this, like number 4,
so
collaborating.
collab, yeah. Do you want to hit it? You want me to hit it?
We'll get to the arrangement, Kev. I know you're excited.
Your boy got all the answers.
Yeah, but collaboration is really important. A lot of the times, I think if you lack something as an artist, somebody else can help kind of pick up that thing, but you can learn from that person. So like if you work with another artist, a lot of artists are so concerned with like, oh bro, I don't do features. I don't have features on my records. Like, dude, if you're not like the baby or like the hottest thing right now, you don't get to talk like that. You should be doing features.
I'm lit, Brad. What are you talking about?
You should be collaborating. You should be working with different producers. You should be trying to find your voice, especially if you have like, you got the dreaded less than 1,000 plays on any of your songs on Spotify or anywhere else. You should be collaborating. Always. You should be trying to find your sound because a lot of artists I find that haven't collaborated enough don't have their own sound. They don't know what they're going for. They literally are like, they're a sound alike. Like, oh, I can hear exactly who you're trying to be, And you hear that, right, Kev? Like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah, okay, you want to be Mariah Carey, we get it. Or, oh, you're a Drake ripoff, we get it. But if you start collaborating with people, you start to find your voice on their tracks. They find their voice on your tracks. You start working with other people. You start to realize what you like and what you don't like. And I think that's super important. I think collaborating is massively important, especially in 2020, the age of the internet. Everybody's connected. We're global. Collaborate. Get into it. No cap. Don't cap yourself.
No. Speaking of cap,
speaking of cap,
people like have a ceiling and then they like literally can't break through it, so they make like 2 types of records because that's all they're comfortable with.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Collaborating pushes you out of your comfort zone. I like to see every human as like a set of like they're a toolbox.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They have these set of things.
They got their colors.
They got their
techniques.
swag, their styles. Because everyone's learned a little bit different.
For
you
sure.
know what I mean? So you're really, when you're collaborating, you're working with people's different toolboxes and what they can do. And on an artistic level, like sometimes it's just an artist collaborating with another producer versus trying to make their own beats, or you know what I mean.
Right.
So when you start working with other people, like all of a sudden they're putting a new swag on the drums that's making you rap different, sing different,
facts,
hit a different octave. You know what I mean? Producers, we're a toolbox too. We do, this is craft, so we all have like inherent things that are learned. Like, I always write in A and A minor. Brad knows that.
Oh, check out what I'm gonna do to your vocals here. Okay, I want you to stack this part.
Yeah, and then
you're doing vocal production, and
they're
like,
producer,
whoa, that's kind of tight.
A producer will have like their little chains, their effect chains and stuff like
truth.
that, and that'll change the way you hit the track and stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's just a lot of things like that toolbox. You're kind of dipping into different toolboxes, and you're making different types of music, different records.
And you're adding to your own toolbox.
Yeah.
I find a lot of times when I collaborate with people, I'm like, yo, I like that shit. I'm going to just take that and add it to my toolbox.
Yoink, it's mine.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that shit he did with he chopped that shit. I'm going to do that on this, So it's cool. You can definitely and that's like, dude, these are like bonuses, right? Like you collaborate with someone, maybe even do a paid feature, paid collaboration thing. Like you get in the studio. I know there's all this hate on like people are scamming people with paid collabs. Yeah, okay, cool. You're getting scammed. Don't get scammed. Like, just don't do that again.
Who doesn't deserve to.
Yeah, get in the room with them. Get on Skype with them. Get on whatever. Like, but if you're getting scammed, cool. I'm sorry. Like, you lost $100. You lost $200. Get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Now, there's full podcasts on that. That's why I'm like just calling that out because it's so dumb to worry about that as an artist. I'm getting scammed, man. Dude, you have less than 1,000 streams on your Spotify. Don't worry about getting scammed. All right. But the biggest thing is like when you collaborate with people, and like Kevin's saying, like beat makers, producers, recording. Even you go to a studio and you pay someone to record you, and they start like showing you shit. You're like, oh damn,
picking up game.
Yeah, and then you do it at your home studio, and then your recordings are better. Wow, this is great. You can ask questions. You can you can get mentoring for the same price that you paid for the recording session or the production or whatever.
Let me give a famous example here on some paid collaboration.
Yeah.
So if you're into rap music, you're probably pretty aware of two artists, Lil Baby and Gunna. So Lil Baby started rapping after Gunna did. Lil Baby used to pay Gunna to write his verses on songs.
Nice.
And this is as Lil Baby was learning how to rap. So he didn't really know how to write his own raps or flow, but he would pay Gunna to write the thing, and then he would basically re-rap it. And then eventually he got to the point where he could write his own stuff, and then, you know, he didn't need that anymore. But you know what I mean? That's why they sound similar, is because, you know, they work together.
He just took from the toolbox. He's like, that's mine now.
So yeah.
Same thing with Drake and all the writers he's had over time, you know? Like they all sound like each other, and it's cool. Like that's art. That's how it works. So all this stuff is working together, and it's hard not to mention the other thing as we go through this list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's number 3, and I'm gonna let Kev get in on this because he did like a whole, you know, live talk about arrangement. And arrangement is super important if you're trying to compete or even make radio records, because it really is a formula.
Amen, sister.
Take it away.
Okay, so for arrangement, I did a whole spiel. Radium Workshops, we'll plug that.
That's right.
Hopefully we can do some soon.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
We'll do another Radium Workshop.
That was fun. Shout out to everyone who came.
Yeah.
But if you're there, you'd heard me talk about
Y'all
arrangement.
are the real stars. I love that. All right, now go ahead. Arrangement.
So radio records, if you're looking at hits, it's literally science. Like, they have it broken down into scientific formulas, and there's a reason why. It's based off of psychology and how humans kind of perceive things. So, I mean, there's obvious things that all humans probably should know, like the more repetitive a song is, the more times you can put a hook in a song, the better.
Earworms.
But yeah, we'll start, like, usually you want to, if we're talking modern music, you want to, like, have a very short intro to no intro.
Facts. Get to the meat.
Get to the point. Get to the chorus, which is the most important part of the song.
Yeah, bring us to that hook.
On radio records.
Yeah.
And then as far as the rest of the song, that's where you can really get tricky with it. But most songs now are 2 minutes, 30 seconds to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is long now, I feel like, on songs. And really, people aren't really doing bridges. So don't worry about bridges.
Now, pause. I want to make sure all you guys and girls out there getting butt hurt right now, like, fuck you, man. I'm an artist, and I just do what I want.
We're talking radio.
Talking about radio. Not talking about you. So cool. Do your music. Do the long form. Do the 4 minute, 30 second thing, but then cut it down to 2 minutes and 45 seconds for the radio.
They call it a radio edit.
That's right. I'm just saying, like, I just want to make sure that we're clear here, because, you know, you get those comments. You're like, well, yeah, we know, we get it.
Yeah, I'm probably, the go crazy in the comment sections. We can argue. Yeah. I don't care. Let's get it. But I guess to summarize without giving the long form, because maybe we have footage of that event, and we'll have to go back and find that sometime. But
because you did a whole live
I got real scientific on it and broke down some very popular.
He said,
songs.
Exhibit A over here with the pointer.
Yeah.
Let me show you. The intro should be exactly, well, scientifically speaking.
Yeah, so we'll get that out there sometime if you want if you want the deep dive. But really, make your songs short, make them repetitive. So put a lot of hooks in there, and then within your hooks, make it repetitive. Yeah. Make the hook repetitive.
And I think, like, an important part of arrangement has a lot to do with the instrumentation and where things are placed, and taking people on a journey. Like, if a new thing comes in that I wasn't expecting, that's going to be exciting to me. Like, you don't have to give away everything up front.
Not necessarily. I'd say in hip-hop, which is kind of the largest genre right now, there's nothing changing on the beat. The beat is literally a loop.
But then you have, like, a vocal thing happen, or something else happens, or the feature comes on the second verse or whatever. Like, something exciting, like, where you're like, oh, that's new. Oh, that's interesting. And, like, I'm always a huge fan of, like, flying choruses. I am a fan of that. But I'm also, like, a super fan of flying choruses and then adding something that's just
super duper chorus.
Barely different.
10 ad-libs.
No, just like barely different. A new ad-lib comes in, or a new stack comes in the back, or whatever. Like, Post Malone is the best of this. Like, pay attention. Take notes as you're listening to Post Malone's arrangements, And you're going to find like those are amazing arrangements. Those little things that come in. He's got like a new stack of a vocal thing that's in the background that you don't really hear, you just feel, and then you're like, oh, this chorus seems a little different than the last one. And I think that's super important. Just keep ear candy coming through.
And then back to just to summarize, I think I was talking about making your hooks repetitive, but that just goes back to everything should be repetitive. Your pre-choruses should be repetitive. Using your verses should be repetitive. Like you should literally probably just keep the same melody if you're doing anything melodic, and then change the lyrics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just keep the keep heavy structure and using the same things. I think a lot of people try to make things different to be different, but if you're trying to make radio records, that's how you're gonna win. So I think with that said, I think we can move on to the next one, Brad.
Well, yeah, and this all ties together. But number 2, production, right? A lot of
Brad
people
was getting in there. He was excited. Production.
Yeah,
Brad knows all about that.
Well, because production's like, I think, a little misunderstood. It's a lot of people think production is, oh, you programmed drums, you sat down on a computer and you pressed keys and you did something, right? Like
I took the sample, I flipped it, I turned it up.
Like, I produced it. It's like, that's sound design to me. Like that's like a drum programmer to me. The production is like finding the end product. Like, what does it look like? How does it feel? What is it in the end? Like, where's it going? What is the product? You can take that idea that everyone had in the studio. You can start to develop a story. You can guide people where they think they did everything. And really you produced it. Like you're producing an event or you're coordinating something to where people leave the studio and they're like, man, I just made the greatest song I've ever made in my life. And sometimes you don't get credited for that as a producer, but at the end of the day, that's what a producer is. You put the right people in the right room, you're kind of like developing a vibe, something comes out, a product, and then you make sure that it goes through the arrangement, the mixing, the mastering, it gets in the right hands, it gets put to the A&R or the publisher that you think would work good with this artist. Like producing and production is not just programming drums or making loops or even fucking writing, like singing or something, that's not production. These are just like elements of the product. And I think that's really important to understand in 2020 and going beyond that is that, loop packs are not production. These are you making something that is a part of the production. And a product is a production to me, like an end radio. You're on the radio. What is that end thing? What is that master, that last final thing? That's the product. And a producer or maybe multiple producers had a hand in producing that product. So
let me talk to him.
You can get into the artistic part of it, but
I'm gonna talk to my beat maker family.
I think production's pretty.
Let's
clear.
talk about those beats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if you're very familiar with radio music, it really goes in by waves. So there's a lot of waves going in and out.
It's all fads.
Yeah. So a certain type of beat will be very popular. Summer 17, like fucking the
drugged out Travis Scott vibes.
No, that's still going. I was talking more so the island stuff. You know what I mean?
That
was Summer 17. That was going crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so staying up with these fads, and it really just takes study. So you gotta go to billboard.com. You gotta see what's going on, and it doesn't have to be just beats and trap music, but I'm gonna use that as an example. So you have to be very familiar. You have to check out what tempos are things at, what genres are being included, because there's a lot of genre bending in pop music, in hip hop music,
Agreed.
In R&B. There's genre bending. At a certain point in time, R&B was literally EDM.
Yeah,
to me
it was.
So that's what I'm saying. With genre bending, there's a lot of you have to understand where the influences are coming on for the hottest sounds. So you have to be kind of tapped in with what's going on. And I hate saying that because there's a lot of wave riding. And truly, if you want to be making the radio hits, you want to be, creating the wave. And that's harder. That's harder. I can't explain to you how to create the wave.
Yeah, I think a part of it is just it's committing. It's like, you're familiar with what's coming out. Now you're going to go and do what you think is next or what you think would be a cool version of like what you would do in your own voice as a composer, producer, beat maker, whatever. Like, what would you do to make the next thing of what that is or an iteration of it? And I think like the idea of just like multiplying that, like putting a CD in a duplicator and just duplicating CDs, duplicating beats like exactly how they are, that's just not creative. That has nothing to do with production. That's literally like Sure, it is. It's like manufacturing, though, to me. It's like a manufacturing line. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
and
now
we're-
do
we're-
this over and over type beats, right?
Yeah, we're talking about competing with what's on the radio, and so
Right. So you got to jump to what you think is going to be the next thing.
Sure, but
Right?
you also have to understand what's going on right now, and
course.
that understanding now will tell
Science.
you what's next.
That's science for you, right?
Yeah, like a good example I like to use is Diplo. Diplo, he creates a lot of waves, and then he knows when to jump off the wave because everyone else has already jumped on that wave that he was on.
Yeah, facts.
And so he's switching the wave up.
But he
knows-
does it in his voice.
Yeah.
You know, he does his thing. Like
And
he
he-
throws
and
the
sure,
world
sure,
music
yeah,
twist, his
he's-
Diplo
yeah.
twist into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like once you get to a production level where you are a producer, you can do that. You can produce a product. When
Yeah.
you're a beat maker, or I don't even think like you have to be like a beat maker or producer. I think they're one and the same. But I think if you're not necessarily a producer and you're just manufacturing or making copies of something and you don't have your own voice yet, it's
you
really
should-
hard for you to do that.
Yeah, you totally gotta understand the wave. I don't
Yeah.
want to say ride it, but yeah, you got to ride the wave a little bit so you can understand what's going on.
Yeah, you
and
got to
so that
practice
you can
those,
make
those
predictions.
techniques.
Yeah, you have to, because everything builds on top of each other. You know
Facts.
what I mean? So like trap music didn't just come out of nowhere. It's been here. It used to be horns, and now it's freaking druggy
Yeah.
music. And then it was going freaking rock guitars for a minute,
Facts.
and it was very rock and roll influence. But that's what I'm saying. You got to understand the wave. So
Yeah, so like this definitely brings us to number one. Like I find number one being songwriting. I find that you can just ride the wave and copy the wave, but you're not going to be a well-known producer. You might get your opportunity by having a great songwriter on something or artist on something that's exactly like something else, and you're riding that wave. But that may or may not make you a household name as a producer. It may not get you paid at all.
Yep.
It may get you paid up the ass. It's all in how you leverage it, and it's how you work with that thing, because the songwriting can glue everything together. Like say
songwriting makes the hit.
It makes
9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10, it's like the songwriting and who's on it, right? Like Travis Scott with a great written song.
Yep.
And then, Drake. And then, okay, what do you got? You got an explosive.
Drake anything, right?
and the beat's no different than anything you've heard already, but it's because the songwriting's great and you got great artists on it and it just all works together. And the production's great, because it's a great product. The mixing is amazing. Jason Joshua did the mix. It came out. It's amazing. Like they promoted it right. They had a good brand with it. I think this songwriting can be super powerful, but you do need all these other things with it.
Yeah, so to kind of jump off the songwriting idea, I mean, this just goes back to hits in history, right?
Yeah, facts. You
So,
can
like-
play it on piano and guitar or just sing it a cappella.
I mean,
if it's
this
good,
is
it's good.
deep. This is a lot of theory, and this is where you really do got to study. It's like, if you're into hip hop, you gotta understand what the Beatles were doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's
they were
vibes,
the kings of pops for a reason. If you wanna top the charts, you have to understand what works, structures,
Voice leading.
Yeah. And then so there's just
Pop theory. It's a lot of pop theory.
you have to go deep on it, and you have to understand like hey, The Weeknd likes to use fourths and fifths, and that's
right.
why he's big. Taylor Swift likes to be on the root notes of every single hook and does a lot of one note hooks. I mean, you just have to go deep and understand what people are gravitate to and where they get it, because everything is built off each other, kind of back to the wave writing idea, but songwriting is really built off each other. Like when you think The Weeknd, you're really thinking Michael Jackson, right? Let's keep it real.
I mean,
like,
I did the first time I heard him, and still to this day, I still think Michael Jackson.
Yeah, so like I said, it's all built off each other, and that's how you understand how to write great songs, by studying people who wrote great songs. And there is no fast way to write a great song. There's many ways, because it comes from many genres. If we're talking pop music, which is what I assume when I'm thinking radio music.
Yeah.
So you have to really understand what are the things that gravitate to a certain type of audience, to where it just, it melds to everyone. So with that being said, you have to really study the craft. You have to go back. You have to understand who created the foundations of today. That's why I said the Beatles,
Yeah.
quote unquote, or Michael Jackson, quote unquote, because these are foundational people within the music genre. And then songwriting, you have to understand how they put those songs together, the types of lyrical usage they're using song per song.
Right.
and also what notes they're hitting, in what order, using what rhythms, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like all that stuff. It's so deep. I can't even begin to start. And maybe we'll just have to do a whole podcast on songwriting.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, wrapping this all up, literally every single one of these has so much literature and so much history and so much to study behind it, but it's ever changing, right? Yep. Like production is ever changing, mixing is ever changing, the tools,
songwriting is.
Yeah, everything just keeps changing. So keep up with it. Go back on the 75 other podcasts we've done, and you're going to learn a lot about the music business, but you'll learn a lot about, rollout strategies, mixing, mastering, writing songs, production, all this stuff. And if you do want to work with us, mixing, mastering, production, composition, anything like that, get in the studio, write some hits, click below. We got a link. There it is. It's for you. If you're down, you made it to the end of this podcast, so you might be down.
Hit us with some comments too. I want to know which of these are the most interesting to you that you think deserve their own podcast. Obviously, I personally think songwriting is one of them, but
huge.
We can go deep into any of these topics
Arrangement,
because these are all like parts of a bigger thing, which is what we talked about today, which is making a radio song. We say radio, but we really mean a hit. So everyone really wants to make hits, I think, deep down. So
Facts. Yeah. There you go. If you like this, if you got anything out of it, thumbs it up, comment, subscribe. We got a lot more coming. Thanks, guys.